Hi guys, Julia here from JM Squared Vintage. Welcome back to the channel. I am here today with the Ship With Me. These are all orders that came through over the weekend. A pretty big volume weekend, some super fast sellers, some super slow sellers, some really interesting things to be keeping your eyes out for. We've got a lot to talk about today. But before we get started here, guys, if this is your first time here, if this is your first time stumbling on my channel, first and foremost, welcome. I am Julia. That is my name. We talk all things thrifting and vintage and the business of reselling on the internet here. If that sounds like something that you might be into, consider hitting subscribe down below. I would love to have you along on this journey. But without further ado, guys, it is getting a little later in the afternoon than I want it to be. I've got a stacked day after that, so we've got to get these things packed up and off to the post office. So why don't you go grab yourself a snack, grab yourself a drink, sit back, relax, and let's get into this shipment. All right, so the first thing we're gonna ship off here is this hat. And this is a hat from the Sunset Tower Hotel. And as I'm packing this up, I'll give you a little bit of a story time. So this is from my own closet. The Sunset Tower Hotel is like this Art Deco Grand Dame hotel on the Sunset Strip in Hollywood. And years ago, about 10 years ago, I stayed there on a business trip. The travel agent that worked with my company knew that I loved these old school hotels. So anytime she booked for me when I traveled, she would try to set me up in a hotel similar to the Sunset Tower. So I stayed there and I was in love. Fast forward 10 years later, my best friend was out visiting from Philly. If you're new here, I live in the LA area. And we wanted to do like an old Hollywood night. She wanted to stay in Hollywood, do the whole thing, dinner, drinks, whatever. So we made reservations for dinner and we had drinks over at the Dresden, which if you're ever in LA and you want a little flavor of old Hollywood vibes, the Dresden is where it's at. It's exactly my flavor of place. I'm a big fan of places that haven't changed since 1960 because in a place like LA, if they haven't had to change since 1960, you know that they're doing something right. So we ended up booking at the Sunset Tower and we booked the cheapest room because it's a pretty expensive hotel. I think we were in a standard king, not even a deluxe king. You know what I'm saying? Least expensive room you can get. So the credit card that I used to book it has a program where if there is a room upgrade available, they will give it to you. So this was my best friend's first time out here in LA. So she wanted to do the full tour. So I drove her up to Malibu. This is obviously before the fires. If you were visiting for the first time, don't drive PCH up to Malibu right now. It's still really hard to see. But anyway, we went up to Neptune's Net and had lunch, and then we went over Malibu Canyon. I took her to a few places she wanted to go see. Then we went over Laurel Canyon and rolled up to the Sunset Tower after driving around for about 8 hours. We were train wrecks. We poured ourselves out of that car the hot messes we were. We were both in bike shorts because we were driving around for 8 hours and we wanted to be comfortable, and oversized t-shirts. So we get into the hotel and we're talking to the guys at the desk, and she and I met while working at a restaurant. So we've worked in service. We have a lot of respect for people who work in service, and we always relate pretty quickly. And we were just kind of in peak form. So we're joking with the guys and we're having a good time. And one of the guys that works there looks at me and he's like, "Oh, I have good news. One of our larger rooms opened up for you." Now, anytime I've ever gotten a room upgrade from this car, it's always been to a higher floor or a corner room or whatever. So that's kind of what I'm expecting. I'm like, great. And he's like, "The only thing is the room isn't ready yet. So why don't you guys go over to the Tower Bar and have yourselves a cocktail while we, get everything ready for you." And he looks at me, and I kind of didn't even register this at the moment. He looks at me and he says, "Have you ever stayed in a room with a staircase before?" And I'm like, "Oh no, whatever." And I just didn't even register that comment. And then I look at him and I'm like, the Tower Bar. Now the Tower Bar is a famous see and be seen kind of a place, famous for its rules list. There are no shorts, there are no sandals, there is no cell phones. This is a place where business gets done, right? And I look at him and I remember I put my hand down on the counter. I'm like, "I'm in bike shorts." And he, without missing a beat, picks up the phone and he makes a fake phone call to the bar. He's like, "Carl, there's gonna be a pair of bike shorts walking into the Tower Bar." Anyway, we're having a great time. So fast forward 15, 20 minutes, my best friend and I are sitting in the Tower Bar in shorts and sandals. 100% I was wearing Birkenstocks, sipping our overpriced, but I'm gonna be totally honest, flawless dirty martinis. And that's when his comment registered to me. He upgraded us to one of the townhouse suites. Feel free to go in the Sunset Tower Hotel and look at the townhouse suites. It's a 2-story suite. It's absolutely ridiculous. If I have some footage of it, because I took videos to send it to all my friends, I'll put it in here. So anyway, from that day on, the tower is our place. So for Christmas, I popped into the tower when another friend of mine was in town. Popped in there for some cocktails because they wanted to see it. And I picked us up some matching hats and matching hoodies. And so this is the one that I bought for myself. I gave her hers for Christmas. And unfortunately, I just grabbed them. I didn't try it on there. And this just didn't fit my head all that well. Anyway, the whole thing about the Sunset Tower merch is that they do not sell it online. It is extremely limited drops. You can only buy it at like the little gift shop, and it's not even like a shop where you walk into where there's a register. You have to get somebody at the front desk to like take you over to the little cases. So it's a whole thing. And this hat was something that I bought for myself and I just didn't love the fit. So I finally got it listed, and these pieces almost invariably go for more than they cost. Right? So I can't remember what I paid for it, like 35 or 40 bucks. Like they're expensive at the hotel, but I listed it for $98 and it sold for full price in one day. And the funny thing is, it's going to Hollywood. So this person could have gone to the hotel and gotten it, but either way, you know, it's limited edition. So chances are this style was only available for as long as they had that supply there. But anyway, if you guys ever see a piece of Sunset Tower merch or a t-shirt or a sweatshirt, like get it. Those things go for a fortune. Also, when and if you're in LA and you're looking for like peak Hollywood vibes in a beautiful old building and overpriced, yes, but flawless dirty martini, pop over to the Tower Bar. Just read the rules list first and don't go in bike shorts like me. It was like, that is truly one of the nights that we will be laughing about for the rest of our lives. Anyway, I hope he loves it. Next up, from the exceptional to the bread and butter, this is a great little linen top from Bowden. Now, I do not see Bowden like almost ever. I don't see it in the bins. I don't even see it in the thrift all that much, though to be totally honest, because Bowden does tend to sell, especially like the more basic pieces like this, in that kind of bread and butter territory. I'm not sure if this is something I would be paying up for in the thrift here, but I do grab it when I see it in the bins because it just sells really, really well for me. I just don't get my hands on a lot of it. And to be totally honest, like I love Bowden clothes. I think that they, quality-wise, are really exceptional. They are pricey, retail, for sure, but I think you do get what you pay for with them. So it's something like when I need an everyday kind of like casual dress, Bowden is one of the places that I turn to because I know that, yeah, I'm gonna spend a little bit more money, but I know I'm gonna get something that's gonna last me years and years. And this one I've had for a while. And like, I think the main hang up on this is that it's a petite length. It was like a smaller size and it was a petite length. The fact that it was the color that it is, that kind of bright, it's not quite neon, but it's like a bright sunshiny yellow. I had so much interest in it. And to be totally honest, if this was something that was like a more standard color and it had sat around for as long as this one did, it's something I probably would have like put on the chopping block and or donated back. But the fact that I had so many questions about this, largely because people were really into the color, it is very, very difficult to find any kind of clothing in these super saturated colors right now, is the reason I ended up holding on to it. So I've had it for over a year. I want to say it was like a year and 3 months, and I had it listed at $32 and it popped through as a full price sale. So eventually it did go for what I asked for it. But with a $1 cost at the bins, this brought me to a profit of $24.60. And this was a sale over on Poshmark. I'm so happy to finally be getting this onto a new home, and I hope she absolutely loves it. Next up, this is a little piece that my mom found while I was out. We had gone to the bins in her area, as we always had. And this is just a little t-shirt that she found while digging. And she picked it up because she loved the print and she said it felt really nice. And when we were kind of going through everything right before we left, I saw the tag and I kind of freaked out. And she didn't know why. She did not know this brand, but this is a testament to like, if it feels nice, you should be paying attention, because this was Peruvian Connection. Now, this is just a t-shirt. It's 100% cotton. So this is about as insignificant a piece as you can get from the Peruvian Connection. They are known for their sweaters, in particular their alpaca sweaters, and they can go for a pretty penny. I want to say between $100 and $200 is kind of typical. Very, very, very expensive brand, very high end. But again, it's one of those things that it is a brand that people know and love, which is why I was so pumped to find this. This is the first and only piece I've ever found, and I didn't even find it. My mom did, you know? But this I had listed for just under 2 months. And I had it listed at $38. I think retail these go for like $80 to $90. So they're pricey for t-shirts. Beautiful, beautiful condition though. And I had it listed at $38 as I mentioned, and I sent an offer for $34, which was accepted. And with a roughly $1 cost at the East Coast bins, this brought me to a profit of $26.20. And this was a sale over on Poshmark. So I hope she loves it. Good find, Mom. And keep your eyes out for Peruvian Connection. You do not want to miss that tag. It is very small. It's unassuming. If you're not used to it and you see a t-shirt, you might miss it, but please commit that to memory if you don't already have that in your memory. Next up was this cute little top I found from We The Free. So this is a little mixed media situation. So it's this blue striped fabric with this kind of chunky waffle knit kind of inset. I thought that this would be a good like swim cover up. This feels like a beachy shirt, like something you would throw on maybe on a cooler night down the shore or whatever. But I do love picking up We The Free stuff. It does sell pretty well for me. Not always for like the most amount of money, but the We The Free in particular sells better for me than the regular Free People line. So especially if your main concern is the velocity of your sales, pay more attention to We The Free than you do regular Free People. Definitely be keeping your eyes out for We The Free. But you just, at this point you have to make sure that the piece that you're picking up from the regular Free People line isn't saturated, because their pieces can either go super fast for a ton of money or they will sit for a year and you'll get $15. You know what I'm saying? But for me, We The Free always sells crazy fast. But this one unfortunately was a size extra small, oversized, but again, you have that kind of issue with Free People pieces, which can be a problem when you're dealing with people who filter by size, which most of us do, even though this would easily fit like probably up to a size large, either way. I had it listed for $34 for about 3 weeks. I got an offer for $24, which I did accept. And with the $2 cost at the bins, this brought me to a profit of $18.60. And this was a sale over on eBay. So that's about what I get just for you guys if you're just getting into it in terms of the We The Free pieces, which tend to be more like t-shirts and more like separates like that. I feel like I don't remember ever seeing like a We The Free dress. Typically I'm gonna see between $20 and like $35 on those pieces. So just make sure you're minding your sourcing costs, especially if you are at a thrift store or at like a yard sale where they're asking a little bit more of a significant price. Just make sure that your profit is there for you. Next up, this was another one that my mom found, and this is a 100% silk robe with an embroidered dragon here on the pocket. And this is from a brand called Iris Silks for Men. This is vintage for sure. That label is absolutely a vintage label, but that doesn't necessarily matter when you're dealing with 100% silk. Silk robes in particular are just such a slam dunk purchase. It doesn't matter if there's a label. It doesn't matter if it's old or new. It just matters if it's silk. People look for silk robes. And as usual, I never, ever know how to fold these. Silk is just so slippery, so it's difficult to start with. Anytime you have a belt that can detach, I just kind of take the belt out and make like a little package situation out of it. But this is the kind of thing I always say, do not sleep on sleepwear. This is a perfect example of the kind of stuff that you can find in the sleepwear section. And they're usually cheaper than like a dress in a thrift store. Robes are maybe about the same price as a dress, maybe. Most of the times that I find them, they're not. Like a dress would be $9 or $10 and a robe would be like $8. A little bit cheaper, but still. Ditto to nightgowns. You need to make sure that you are flipping through the nightgowns to see if there are any like silk slip dresses that are accidentally labeled as a nightgown versus being like a slip dress. I have found that multiple times, and I know a lot of you guys have found that as well. In fact, let me know, what is the most insane thing that you've ever found in the sleepwear section, whether it be a really high-end pajama brand or something completely mislabeled. I need to know. But either way, I had this listed for 1 month exactly, and I had it listed for $64, and I got an offer for $50, which I did accept, and with a roughly $1 to $2 cost at the East Coast bins, this brought me to a profit of $43.31, and this was a sale over on Mercari. So little dribbles and drabbles of Mercari still popping in. But either way, silk robes, guys, don't ask questions, don't ask who the brand is. Like, silk robes in general will sell for a great price, as long as they're in good condition. All right, next up, we've got this beautiful beaded top from Calypso St. Barth. And this feels so very like of their style. The funny thing is when I found this thing was like crumpled in a ball. I had to do quite a bit of teasing to get these untangled. But Calypso is so very, very, very expensive. But this is just so indicative of their style. It's very island, it's very resort wear, it's very beachy, very lightweight, gauzy, of course. And it's a brand you should keep your eyes out for. I've had quite a few pieces sell over the last couple of weeks. And I guess 'tis the season because resort wear has been selling like crazy for me. But it's a label I keep my eyes out for. I would imagine that some of you guys in like Florida, in areas like that, see quite a bit of this. Anywhere you're gonna see a lot of like Lily Pulitzer, this is the kind of stuff that you'll find in those same closets. Although Calypso is more neutrals, where Lily is a lot more like shocking pink and green. So maybe this is their like casual day clothing. But this was easily like a $300 or $400 shirt when it was brand new. There were definitely a couple spots of missing beads in this, but it didn't really impact the overall look of the shirt. Because there is so much beading, you would really have to be like squinting to see what's missing. But if this was flawless, if this was in flawless condition, I probably would have listed it a little bit more towards like the $100 range, but due to condition, I had it listed at $46. I had it listed for about 5 months and it popped through as a full price sale. So with a $2 cost at the bins, this brought me to a profit of $34.80. And this was a sale over on Poshmark. So I hope she absolutely loves it. Next up, this is another one that my mom found. So this is a little top from Everlane. It's 100% silk. It is a size 2, but it's very oversized boxy. But this shirt is still for sale on their website. I want to say that it's for sale for about $100. It's this beautiful steel blue, really wide, boxy, slightly cropped silhouette. I like the length of this. I think that this is really like having its moment right now. But this shirt in particular, now Everlane was kind of like the first to the market in terms of like real like direct to consumer D2C, kind of cutting out the middleman, transparent about their supply chain. And they still are really the blueprint for that. They do a really nice job of communicating information about their supply chain. And their pieces tend to be very minimalist, lots of basics, kind of in the same vein as Quince, but I don't want to lump Quince in with it because Quince's whole business model is like duping really high-end brands. You know, like a lot of their sweaters are dupes of Jenny Kane, that kind of stuff. And Everlane does not do that. Like they do their own design. Their designs tend to be original, but it's similar in the like basicness of it. Like you can build an entire capsule wardrobe very, very easily around Everlane pieces. So it's a brand that I like to keep my eyes out for. And some of the pieces sell for more than others, but at a baseline, you're generally going to be seeing like mid bread and butter to like upper bread and butter, and some pieces above bread and butter, this one included. So I had this listed for about 2 months and I had it listed at $55 and I got an offer for $44, which I did accept. And with a $1 cost, give or take, from the East Coast bins, this brought me to a profit of $37.36. And this was a sale over on Depop. So I hope she absolutely loves it. This is such a cute little closet staple shirt. Next up, now this was kind of a roll of the dice here. These are a pair of vintage Lauren by Ralph Lauren pants. Mostly I picked these up because they feel absolutely positively brand new, but they are like a tapered fit, this bright cherry red plaid print. Now, newer Lauren by Ralph Lauren is not a brand that I will pick up. Vintage, on the other hand, I most certainly will. Though I will be selective. I will be more like style based on those older pieces, but guys, I'm telling you, some of those older pieces from the 90s, you would not believe what they go for. In fact, I'll tell you what they go for. Just this past Christmas, I found this gorgeous, I think it was like either a Stuart plaid or a Black Watch plaid. I cannot remember, but it was a maxi skirt, just kind of like almost like a slip skirt silhouette. It was wool, 90s vintage. You can always tell the 90s vintage by the tags. If they are a woven tag, they are at least from the 90s. If they are like a bigger tag, they're the earliest pieces from like the early 90s. And you can also look at like where they're made. If they're the big tag and they're made in the USA, like this is definitely something to pay attention to. But that skirt that I got, which was a later 90s piece, and it very much went in line with later 90s style, that sold in like one day for, I think, $110. So pay attention to it, but there is some nuance. So make sure before you go paying up for anything Lauren by Ralph Lauren, because I feel like with the chatter on social media about vintage Lauren pieces, certain thrift stores are starting to jack up the prices. So just like I said, learn a little bit about dating the pieces, learn a little bit about what is in demand, but it can pay off. Like that skirt, if that skirt was jacked up to $20, I knew I was gonna get about $100. Like I knew that that's about what it was gonna sell for. I would have paid $20 for it all day. That's a great return on investment. It was regular price, which I prefer, but I would have paid up for that. But these were right in that same vein, just very preppy, classic tailoring and like in brand new condition. So I had these listed for about 3 months. I wasn't expecting to sell these before like summertime just because of the style. They're very lightweight, but I had them listed for $42 and I sent an offer for $37, which was accepted. And with a $2 cost at the bins, this brought me to a profit of $27.60. And this was a sale over on Poshmark. So I hope she absolutely loves them. Let me know what crazy vintage Lauren piece you had that sold for an insane amount of money. I know that some of you guys have them, so let us know what it was. Next up, this is a little vintage scarf, and I'll tell you guys, I saw a lot of scarves at Fashion Week and for the last couple seasons at Fashion Week. A lot of people are wearing them as like belts, like they're wearing scarves as clothing. But this is vintage Bill Blass. And I think this is vintage Bill Blass, and it was Bill Blass for Bar and Beards, which looks like was just like a neckwear store back in the day. So that dates this to about the 80s, maybe the 90s. But it's 100% silk. It's brown, which is going to be huge, huge, huge this year. And of course it's Bill Blass, so it's beautiful quality. And this is in like flawless condition, made in Japan and all of that. So do keep your eyes out for scarves. I mean, scarves are one of like my favorite things to source. I see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of absolute garbage scarves, but man, every once in a blue moon, you get that gem. And listen, if we're not digging through the scarves, none of us will find those Hermes scarves. I've yet to find one, but I know some of you guys have found them, and it's worth the time just for the chance. You know what I'm saying? If you're not playing the game, you're not gonna win. I'm looking at this, realizing I didn't write anything on the back of my label here, but I do remember what this sold for. And it was a Poshmark sale, so I can do the math. I had it listed for $37. Might have been $36, but I think it was $37. And I got an offer for $30, which I did accept. And with the $2 cost at the bins, this would have brought me to a profit of $22 even, and this was a sale over on Poshmark. And if memory serves me right, I picked this up somewhere around like Thanksgiving or Christmas, so just about 3 months, but absolute gorgeous little piece, and I hope she loves it. Next up, this is another one that I found right around Christmas. I found these actually right around Thanksgiving, and I found this, and I found a little sister of this in a beautiful green. The green piece sold immediately. Like I listed it and it sold the next day. These were either from the same closet or from the same family in that they were Christmas shirts, because they just reek of Christmas, of like holiday clothing, not to mention the red and the green. But the green sold immediately, and this one, for whatever reason, I got a bunch of like $12 offers on it, and it sat for a little bit longer. I mean, it didn't sit for all that long, but it sat for significantly longer than the green version. And maybe it's something to do with the red trend that's popping up for this year, but either way, I'm glad to be moving this one on. It was just odd because I found them on the same day. I listed them on the same day. They were the same shirt, same size, all that. Vastly different experiences selling them. Or trying to, as it were, because obviously this didn't sell until just now. But I had it listed for $34 and I got an offer for $25. I think that's what I sold the green shirt for as well. And with a $3.50 cost at the thrift store, this brought me to a profit of $16.50. And this was a sale over on Poshmark. It took me about 4 months to sell. So I hope she absolutely loves it. It is beautiful, so much silk, and that red is just the most gorgeous color. Next up, this is another one that I had for so long. This was just a cute little sweater tank, and this is from House of Harlow. Now, I know that House of Harlow is sold at like TJ Maxx, so I don't pick it up all that often, although some pieces I have had have sold so well. And this I ended up holding on to just because of the style. I liked the fact that it had that kind of corset detailing. It's not corseted at all, there's no boning, but it's made to look like a corset, really flattering neckline. And I've had so much interest in it over the year that it was never quite on the chopping block. A lot of people ask me like what my formula is for when I put things on the chopping block or when I donate them back. And it's like an individual thing for each piece, but one of the components that I do take into consideration is, did I get any action on it, any questions, likes, you know, whatever. So if it's something that I've had absolutely zero interest in, you know, maybe it's got 2 likes over a year, I've gotten no questions. That's just kind of telling me the story that it's not something that buyers are interested in. So that's one part of the equation. But as always, with most decisions, at least that I make in my business, the decision making is fluid and generally on a case-by-case basis. As I say to myself, structure is your friend, rigidity is not. Never be afraid to take in new information and make changes with your new knowledge. Words to live by, truly. But either way, I had this listed, like I said, for over a year. I had it listed at $26 and I got an offer for $20, which I was very happy to accept with a $1 cost at the bins. This brought me to a profit of $15 even, and this is sale over on Poshmark. So again, so happy to be moving this on to a new home, and I hope she absolutely loves it. Perfect little transitional piece because it is a little bit thicker than something you would typically pull out for springtime. Next up, oh, this was a fun one. So this is a little quarter zip sweatshirt from a brand called Suspicious Antwerp. Now, this is a niche, but like known in that niche streetwear brand. This is very subtle for their pieces. They tend to have like very big logos that say Suspicious across the front. So keep your eyes out for it. It's something that like if you don't know the brand, you could easily go right past it because they're typical, you know, just like sweatshirts, stuff like this. This feels nice, but it doesn't feel exceptional in terms of quality. What triggered me to take a second look at it is Antwerp. Antwerp is definitely a hotspot for fashion. So anytime I see something from Antwerp, I'm paying attention. And I recommend you do the same, especially if the pieces are made in Belgium, which I don't think this is, but you get the drift. It's not a cheap place to do business. Also, Antwerp is like the diamond capital of the world. But either way, it is a brand and a locale to keep your eyes out for. You know, anything from like Antwerp or Copenhagen in particular. They're not going to be huge mass market, well-known names, but you'll often see like a real niche, but like high demand situation for them. So I had this listed at $44 and I had it listed for just 2 weeks. Had some good interest in it in that time as well. But I sent an offer for $39.60, which was accepted. And with a $2 cost at the bins, this brought me to a profit of $30.72. And this was a sale over on eBay. So I hope he absolutely loves it. I want to say that this was probably somewhere like a $150 sweatshirt. So I hope he loves it. All right, next up, I just grabbed this off the drying rack. This is a gorgeous little satin bustier corset from Sugar Thrills. Now, Sugar Thrills is a Dolls Kill brand, or at least it's sold at Dolls Kill. I don't know if they own it, but I always keep my eyes out for it. I'm actually gonna stuff these cups to keep their shape. It's gonna be a real awkward shaped package. But Sugar Thrills is a brand I keep my eyes out for. I've had some good luck with it. It's nothing that's gonna, you know, sell for crazy money, but anything I've ever bought from Dolls Kill, just again, it's got a really devoted buyer base. It's really one of the only places you can go and buy items like this. So that is a recipe for a good pickup for resellers. As a reminder, do not ever, ever, ever use stock photos from Dolls Kill. This one sold almost immediately between like the fact that it was white, so it could go for like bridal. It was very coquette. It had the little ruffles on the hip. It was adorable, but it sold so fast. And I had it listed for $36 and I got an offer for $28.86, which I gladly accepted. With a $2 cost at the bins, this brought me to a profit of $22.70. And this was a sale over on eBay. Buyer was super sweet, asked a bunch of questions. So I hope she absolutely loves it. What a cute little piece, and like find another. Probably go to Agent Provocateur and find something similar to that, but it would be like $400 or $500. You know what I'm saying? Next up, another one that sold super quick. This is from Wildfox. Now, Wildfox is one of those brands that was huge about 10 years ago, and it still has absolutely devoted followers. They're like lightweight, ultra soft sweatshirts, and I think that the reason that they are so popular is because of the fit. Like this kind of fit is hard to find elsewhere. It's got a very vintage style raglan sleeves, all that kind of stuff, but it's cut for a woman, so it doesn't have like the tightness in places. And the fabric itself is not constrictive. And where a lot of sweatshirts can be a little bit thicker and a little bit more rigid, this has a ton of stretch to it. So Wildfox is something that like these used to go for crazy prices on resale. They do not go for crazy prices anymore. They do tend to go for like bread and buttery, right? Somewhere between like 20 and 30 bucks at the high end. But it has been my experience time and time and time again, this being absolutely no exception, that they sell very quickly. So again, if you are somebody who is really concerned with the velocity of sales, as long as you're getting this for the right price, I would pick these things up anytime you see them. Like, I have no doubt that this sweatshirt in and of itself is 10 years old, but they absolutely have like such a dedicated buyer base. But I had this listed for just 1 week. Like I said, they sell fast. And I had it listed for $32. And I got an offer for $23.40, which again, right in that sweet spot. So I did accept it. And with the $2 cost at the bins, this brought me to a profit of $18.04. And this was a sale over on Depop. So I hope she loves it. I know she was probably looking specifically for something just like that. So glad to be able to get that back into her hands. Next up is this absolutely adorable top from Wilfred. Wilfred is an Aritzia in-house brand. Their stuff tends to be very beautifully made. Their prices on the resale market have come down a little bit. And I've mentioned this before. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they, have more stores throughout the country than they did, 2 or 3 years ago. They're a Canadian-based brand, and influencers really got hip to them early on. So the demand on the secondhand market was really, really high for a while there. Now, most major cities have at least one Aritzia store, so they're a little bit easier to get your hands on pieces. Because prior to that, for most of the country, it was Depop or somehow having your Canadian friend ship it over the border, which is pretty darn inaccessible to most people. But I still like to pick up the pieces. There's certain things that I won't pay up for. Like, I probably would not have paid up for this in the regular thrift store, but that's more because I see it somewhat regularly in the bins. But if I didn't see it regularly in the bins, it is something that I would at least be comping in the thrift store, especially if the price was right. And this one I had listed for about 3 months. And I had it listed for $42. This shirt was selling for a pretty decent price compared to other Wilfred shirts that I've been seeing recently. And I got an offer for $30, which I did accept. And with the $2 cost at the bins, this brought me to a profit of $22 even. And this was listed for about 3 months. So this actually took a little bit longer to sell than I anticipated it taking. But either way, I hope she loves it. It's really, really pretty and perfect for this time of year. Next up, now this is something that I'll pick up anytime I see it because I'm a Philly girl and I just have a soft spot for vintage Free People. This is one of their older tags. And the shame of this was it was an extra small. It's very, very stretchy, but still an extra small. So it's just not going to show up in search for a lot of people. But I've had some vintage Free People stuff sell for crazy prices. So keep your eyes out for it, especially if you are in the Philadelphia tri-state area, because I guarantee you will see more of it than the rest of the country will. The employees get samples and stuff like that. So there's just a lot of it. Or if you are in the Philadelphia area, I don't know if Circle Thrifts are still around, but back in the day, Circle Thrift used to be where Free People and Urban and all the Urban family brands would put their overstock or their sample stock. So if you're in the area, check them out. Also, shop for a good cause, As a matter of fact, Circle Thrift is where I found my first slipper set. I'll never forget it. But this was just so cute. I loved the colors, and it was something I've had for, a little bit of a while, but this is the kind of thing that I will probably, if it takes like a year or two to sell, it's not ever going to be put on the chopping block just because it's rare, Something like this is 100% not saturated. It can't be, right? This was probably 20 years old. But either way, I had this listed at $36 and I had it listed for about 6 months. And I got an offer for $28, which I did accept. And with the $2 cost at the bins, this brought me to a profit of $21.09. And this was a sale over on eBay. So hope she absolutely loves it. Getting a little piece of Free People history back out into the world. Next up, now this was something that I knew was going to sell so fast. These were a pair of jeans from a brand called Serenade. Could be Serenade, but I think it's Serenade. That's how it's spelled. That's the logo. Reason I picked these up, I did not know this brand at all, was because they felt really well made. They were super skinny leg, a bunch of cargo pockets. And these are jeans that are meant to be worn stacked, which is like a slim cut extra long leg that kind of pulls but like very close into the body. It looks like kind of a stack of denim on your leg. And these retail like $110, so kind of mid-price at this point for denim, but it did seem like they had a good amount of demand to them. So I grabbed them and had a ton of interest like immediately. Lots of people asking for kind of interesting measurements, like measurement around the calf, which I get. Like if this is meant to be worn stacked and you've got like thicker calves, or if you're like an athlete and you've got, you know, ham hocks on the back of your calves, a stacked leg can be very, very uncomfortable. But either way, I had these listed for just about 3 weeks, just under 3 weeks. And I had them listed at $52 and I got an offer for $40, which I did accept. About what I expected to get for them. They go between like $35 and $50 or so. And with a $2 cost at the bins, they brought me to a profit of $30, even, and this was a sale over on Poshmark. So he seemed very, very excited to get these. So I hope he loves them. 2 to go here, guys, and this is something I will always pick up. This is a pair of vintage Tommy jeans, vintage Tommy Hilfiger jeans. Now, Tommy Hilfiger is a brand that I will only pick up vintage. And these just look like 1996, primarily because of that. Carpenter jeans were like it back in the day. But in general, if you are looking at a Tommy Hilfiger piece, usually these are Tommy jeans, so it's not the same. But if you're looking at a Tommy Hilfiger piece while you're outsourcing, if you look at the tag, and the tag has what they call the big flag, the red and white flag, then you know you're looking at a vintage piece. So more modern pieces say like Tommy Hilfiger in line, and they have the little flag in between the two words. Vintage pieces will say Tommy and they'll have a big flag with Hilfiger underneath. And as with most vintage menswear of that ilk, polo, etc., the brighter and the bolder, the better. But it doesn't necessarily matter. Like I've sold lots of neutral sweaters and stuff like that very, very quickly. Vintage Tommy flies out of my closet. In fact, it was kind of interesting. I was in Spain in the fall, and of course, I drug my friends to go vintage shopping because that's just part of traveling with me. And everything in the men's shop was either vintage polo or vintage Tommy Hilfiger. And like not necessarily the bolder pieces. Like they just kind of regarded Tommy Hilfiger vintage pieces as highly as they do polo, which is not the case here. But these I picked up like right around the end of last summer, which is a bummer. So I figured I was not gonna sell these until we were in like the summer selling season, which we are officially right in the swing of. But either way, I had these listed for 7 months, as I mentioned, and I had them listed at $32 and I got an offer for $27, which I did accept. With a $2 cost at the bins, this brought me to a profit of $23.44. And this is a sale over on Depop. Not surprised at all that that's where it sold to. And then finally, we've got these great pants from Free People Beach. Now, Free People Beach in a pair of pants is a very exciting find for me. I've had this experience time and time and time again, and where there's a pattern, there's data. So typically when I see Free People Beach on a pair of pants, my first immediate thought is that it's part of a set. I don't think that they sell pants standalone. I think Free People Beach is generally like resort wear sets, at least in terms of like the pants. And I have had so many experiences where the pants, like I'll never find the name of them. A lot of them don't have names at all. Doesn't necessarily matter. These will sell very, very quickly. You just wanna make sure that you're using both Free People as the brand and using FP Beach in the description, because I think that there's a lot of people that search for FP. But just, I don't think I've ever had a pair of pants from FP Beach sit for more than a week. Like they just sell so fast and for a decent price. Now, I don't know if it's because people don't want to buy the sets and they just want to buy the pants, or if it's a situation where like these were very open weave, so maybe somebody kind of like destroyed the pants and they're looking for a replacement. Either way, I will pick them up anytime I see them, and this is something that I will gladly and have gladly paid up for in the regular, because more than anything, I know that they will move very, very quickly. Would I pay $19 for these if they were like jacked up? Probably not, because I'll typically see between like 25 and 45 on these pieces, depending on what they are in size and all that. Either way, I had these listed at $36 and I had them listed for just under 1 week. Got an offer for $30, which I gladly accepted. And with the $2 cost at the bins, this brought me to a profit of $22. And this was a sale over on Poshmark. So I hope she absolutely positively loves them. Like I said, FP Beach pants are a bolo in my book, so keep your eyes out for them, but hope she loves them. But guys, that is it. That is the shipment for today. A lot of stuff, again, a pretty high volume weekend with lots of interesting things. Some things that sold lightning quick, some things that sat for far too long, but either way, a good weekend of sales and I'll take it. But guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me while I literally get my work done. It is always so nice to have you guys here to yak with with and nerd out about some of these things. But guys, if you had fun, please consider leaving a like or a comment on this video. Of course, don't forget to hit subscribe. I would love to have you along on this journey. All of that helps me out so much with YouTube. But without further ado, guys, I hope you have the most beautiful weekend. Happy hunting, and I will see you all in the next one.